we're going to have these moments. We're going to have these little victories where we're going to feel like, yes, we got a little bit. But I really think that the rest of this show, based on this first arc, it feels like to me like Tony Gilroy is not going to, it's going to be like we're sitting on broken glass. It's going to be uncomfortable and heartbreaking. Welcome, everyone, to Krypton to Alderaan. I'm Joey, your Star Wars lover, and with me is Roish Goodlooks, your Star Wars song guy.
Hello, Joey. Hello, podcast.
Hello, podcast.
Hello.
And we are the video podcast that analyzes nerdy pop culture stuff, but it's mostly Star Wars. And this episode, we will be discussing the first arc of Andor, Season 2, which consisted of 3 episodes. 1 year later, Sigrona Tima, and Harvest. But first, please hit that subscribe button if you hadn't already. We're going to be back every week after this for the next 4 weeks, and maybe even a little bit more, given that Tales of the Underworld is coming out. Either way, we'll be back for a few weeks after this talking more about Andor, so hit that subscribe button so you can stay informed when we drop a new episode. That's enough of that. Let's just get right into the first arc of Andor Season 2.
Woo!
Pachoo! Do we punch it anymore? We ask that every time now.
I don't think we punch it anymore. We just dive right in.
We just go because there's video happening. It has been so long since Andor. We've gotten so much information over the past couple of years, and then even more so at Celebration this past weekend. And so I think now that we're officially back into it, Season 2 is launched. I think we should do a quick vibe check on how we're feeling getting back into it, and specifically about these 3 episodes. So what did you think, Royce?
I think the anticipation and the hype was high. And
yes.
if you know where I'm going with this, like that can often lead to maybe, having those expectations is a little tricky. We were so excited for this show. We're like, Andor is coming back. It's Andor, the best Star Wars ever. Like, we're setting ourselves up for some heartache there. And I think the season so far with these 3 episodes is on par with season 1. But I was definitely like overhyped for it. And I think I forgot that Andor is like so slowly paced, and then you get the action payoff, right? I love that we opened up with that TIE fighter scene and we kicked it off with a bang.
Yes.
But then, yes, we have the long dialogues and the speeches, and that's all great. There's so much dialogue that like I miss the nuance every now and then. You got to rewind or put subtitles on. And I kind of forgot that was the vibe of I didn't rewatch Andor season 1 going into this, but like that's definitely the vibe of the show. Dialogue, right? And I needed to like reset into that. I don't know. I don't want to go too ham, but I have more thoughts on the format and whatnot. But that was kind of my initial reaction. Is like, I forgot what this show kind of really was. Like the trailers are all jam-packed, but the show really, there's a lot that happens, but the action, you got to earn the action. How do you feel?
Right. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty similarly. You mentioned that expectations can set you up for heartache, and my heart is definitely aching at the end of this arc, for sure. Not necessarily because of expectation reasons, for other reasons. I think we could get into the format a little bit here. When they announced that this was the way they were releasing these episodes, I was like, this is too much. What are we going to do?
Can you imagine that? Like, go back in time, there's going to be 3 new episodes in 1 week. You'd be like, holy cow, if this was like 10 years ago, that's insane. And now you're like, actually, slow down.
Yeah, let's pull back on the reins a little bit.
Professor.
Was how I felt before. And it is a lot to get them at like on the East Coast of the United States where we get them at 9:00 at night, and they're hour-long episodes, and there's 3 of them, so we got to stay up till midnight if we want to catch it all.
Yeah, neither of us watched them back to back, right?
Yeah, I couldn't. I like have to be at work early in the morning, and it just doesn't work that way for me anymore. What I will say is the first season had a lot of 3-episode arcs, but they were broken up week by week. Like the prison arc of the first season was phenomenal, and I think it still would have been phenomenal, maybe even more so, if we got all those episodes at once to watch as like a feature-length thing. We go back and forth with this so many times. No matter what they announce, we're going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, well, if they just released it, oh, the
Yeah.
Book of Boba Fett would have been so much better if they just released
You're
it
right.
all at once.
This is a really good point.
We get trapped in this a lot. What I think coming out of the first arc, I was more maybe not so appreciative of the format from a content creator standpoint. We got to watch 3 episodes. We got to talk about 3 episodes a week.
You got to convince your girlfriend to watch 3 episodes with you.
Exactly. That didn't work. And what we want to do on Krypton Alderaan is like dive deep into particular points and analyze them and like discuss a very specific thing ad nauseum. And that's a little bit harder to do when we have 3 hours of a thing to talk about. But I honestly came out of these 3 episodes very appreciative of this format. I wish that we were getting more. Like we're only getting this for 4 weeks, which is a bummer. But I'm very appreciative of them breaking them up this way. Everything is self-contained. We get them all at once, and we could sit and watch them as like a feature length. We're getting basically 4 Andor movies right before that lead into Rogue One. So this first arc really changed my mind about how I was feeling about the format, which I'm very appreciative of, because now I can go into each week maybe dreading it a little less. Not that I was dreading it, but just that I was like, okay, we got to like commit to a lot of time, which again sounds silly to complain about because it's Star Wars and I love Star Wars and I'll give Star Wars all the time in the world. It was just daunting.
Right.
So I really liked the way the 3 episodes played out all at once. I think like, even though I didn't watch it all at once, it was really, really nice to get them all. We got the heartbreak, we got the emotional moments, we got the dialogue, we got the action all at once. And I think that works really, really well for this show. Maybe some of the criticisms you or I had last season was that there was very dialogue heavy and not a lot of action. But with this one, we get it all wrapped up in one thing. The show's tremendous. Season 1 was tremendous. I'm not saying they were negative criticisms, but now we get a much more balanced diet with these 3 arc episodes.
Yeah. I do love in season 1, the Kino Loy, like, there's never more than 6 guards or whatever. That ending is a great,
12.
hell yeah, I gotta see, never more than 12. Yeah. Then you want to see the next one. Waiting a week is like, oh, I can't wait for the next. I love that feeling. Like, I can't wait for the next episode. But sometimes it was like, no, you're just going to get another episode and then it will conclude. And even if you're not watching all of these in one sitting, in one night, still like day after day, that's still a binge, in my opinion,
Sure.
Not having to wait a whole week, just a day or two, So we watched one on Wednesday night and the other 2, or Tuesday night, and the other 2 on Wednesday night. So like back to back, you're still squishing it in. The thing I think about the format, other than it simply being 3 episodes at once with the arc, is they've got the A, B, and C plots, and in some of the episodes, there's like a short D plot, like as well, that kind of ties into one of the other ones. I don't know if that's like totally landing for me. That's on like the Boba Fett side of things, of like, we're cutting from here to here. And the way I took notes watching, I know we're not talking about specific scenes just yet, but like the amount of times we're cutting from like Chandrilla to Yavin or the jungle, and to Minarao, or to like the TIE fighter, or to Coruscant, or the Imperials on their base. Like in 3 episodes, we went to a lot of places. Even in some of the cuts, especially towards the end of the last episode, the 3rd episode, some of the cuts are like 10 seconds long, or like even less than that. We're like jumping back and forth. And that's obviously like an intentional stylistic choice for the show. Part of me doesn't totally love that. Like, I want to just be in the prison and we're doing the prison arc, sort of thing. And we're using that episode as an example right now. But jumping around, there's so much to keep track of. And maybe there's a lot of good juxtaposition between them when you break it down. But it is a little like awkward. And I'm wondering, like, is that part of this season, like, to make us a little bit uncomfortable? Like, certainly like plot wise, there's lots of things in this that I think we're going to get into today that were uncomfortable, but like just the formatting of jumping around, and especially the last episode of like jumping around really quickly, I'm like, this is inducing anxiety in me, just like the characters kind of on screen. I think that's kind of part of it. And that's another thing I'm wrestling with, of like, that's the show, that's the format for this season. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's super interesting that you say that, because in the last episode, I was like, okay, these cuts feel so much more not natural, but more purposeful in the last episode. In the first episode, I was like, they are cutting. My brain can't keep up with the amount of cuts.
There are 9 or 10 different cuts between Chandrila and Minarao in that last episode. 9 times back and forth.
Wow. Yeah. It just felt when they're doing it at the end of the third episode, and because all of the stuff is going on, it felt better to me than in the first episode where I felt it. I paid attention to it in the first episode. That's how obvious it was to me. And the second episode, I think whatever merit it has, I don't really remember much of it. So I don't remember if the cuts were jarring for me in the second episode, but certainly the first one I was like, wow, we are bouncing around pretty just like out of the, not even wipes, no wipes or anything, just like cut. Yeah, it was super jarring for me. But by the end, especially when like Mon Mothma's dancing around and we're cutting all of the action, we were cutting from like action sequence to action sequence. And that to me, it just felt more purposeful. It just felt better based on like the action that was happening for every specific character that we were cutting to and from.
Well, that's what I mean. The like juxtaposition of like Andor and Bix, and they're like trying to get away from Minarao with all the Imperials and like dealing with the heartache there, cutting back to, Mon Mothma like dancing. Like it's like she's trying to just forget about her problems while they're like on the ground dealing with them.
Yeah.
That was the most kind of awkward for me, especially that the dance music bled over the end of the episode where I was like, I don't know, that was a weird choice. That dance song worked great in context for the wedding.
Yeah.
But for them like reflecting on like, spoiler alert, the loss of Brasso, that felt odd to me. But I also think that was kind of, again, part of the show making you feel awkward, that like synthesizer track is like a little out of tune, So it's like, it's sort of like upbeat and fun party music, but it's also a little like disorienting, So it's very interesting how they're formatting the show. Sorry that we're front loading 10 minutes of format on the episode today, but this is what all the Star Wars shows do, is they put their own kind of spin on how they tell a story. Andor is unique in that.
Yep. I think it's worth discussing because obviously we're getting an entirely new format specifically within the way Star Wars is made and Andor. And the way they're telling this story, it's very new. And I'm sure a lot of people are feeling what we felt having, sat down to watch those 3 episodes. But we're circling around.
Yeah, let's get to
the
the
emotion
meat and potatoes.
And the heartache that was in this arc.
Let's get mad.
Yeah, let's just get right into it. I thought for sure you were going to text me and tell me you didn't want to watch the show anymore. That's how I thought you were going to feel at the end of this arc.
Yeah.
I love the emotion. Like, the action's great. Like you said, it's awesome that we start off. I did not expect to start off with stealing that TIE fighter. I expected it to come way later. But it was awesome. There was also a like heartbreakingly emotional scene between Cassian and the Empire person that is, I guess, helping him. She is, going against the Empire and helping him, and she's very emotional. And his speech there was very good and uplifting, and he's being a real leader, I think. But then we just kind of abandon her, I guess, which is also like kind of heartbreaking because we don't know what's going to happen to her. But the emotional storytelling has come out in full force in these 3 episodes, culminating obviously at the end, and with me thinking, oh, Royce is not going to watch anymore.
All right. Well, we love the intro and then the ending. Yeah, I won't say I hate the ending. I like I said, the music thing kind of threw me for a loop. But yeah, dude, like Brasso dying off screen. And I was like, no, wake up, bro. Like it was one of those moments, right? Where you're like, he's going to, his eyes are going to open. They're going to bring him back to the ship, or there be an exchange there. Like keep fighting the fight, that there be something there. And there was no fanfare. Again, as they're leaving and they're like, Andor looks back at Bix, and they're both just like broken. And that is how I sort of felt, of just kind of like, empty inside from it. Like, dang. And the expectations in the trailer, I'm like, yeah, Brasso, let's go. Let's like punch a stormtrooper. This is going to be great. And he meets his end there. So that's a bummer. We're not going to get, I would have said he was one of my favorite characters, and now we're not going to get any more time with him. I watched Dan Merle's review of the first 3 episodes, and he mentioned like, hey, sometimes heroes don't get a hero's death. So I got to give props to him for like reframing that for me from the storytelling of like, I selfishly would have wanted to like see more from that of like him actually like being shot and Andor maybe seeing that and getting pissed, or, you know, that there was a moment, but there wasn't a moment. And just like you're saying, the Imperial like insider defector or whatever at the beginning, like we don't know her story, right? We don't even Kino Loy, like we don't know what happened to him. He can't swim. So I guess that's not new to Andor, right? To just kind of like, you're never gonna hear from that character again. You know, make up your own headcanon.
Yeah.
Or in the case of Brasso, it's just there is no more, you know? So
exactly.
Yeah, I felt pretty, I'm still kind of bummed about that. I hate you had to bring that up, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the most important thing that happens, and I think it speaks to the tone of this season of the show, which I didn't really, maybe I said it in season 1. If I did, hey, good job, me. I haven't gone back to listen to our episodes, but setting up the tone for season 2, that Imperial defector has friends and family, and she says, I've had fun here, which was just incredible heartbreaking line as she's crying. There are people there who will also be sad that she dies, right? The audience, us as the audience, that was heartbreaking for me. You're talking about the awkwardness or the uncomfortableness of the stuff that happens in these 3 episodes leading up to Brasso's death and Mon Mothma's world shattering. Just, I remember when the trailer came out and I did my reaction and was like, oh, this is nice.
Dancing.
We're going to get to see her let loose and it's going to be great. They're going to find some fun. And it's not. Her daughter hates her. Her daughter's like, I wish you were drunk, as she's like trying to be like, we can go and leave. You don't have to do this, right? And her daughter really hates her. It's clear that Luthen wants her to kill her best friend. Her best friend is betraying her, essentially. We see her world start to fall apart, like the cracks, and then it culminates in this like she gets drunk and just dances, and it's just a manic episode. So we're seeing the worlds of these people fall apart, and we're not supposed to be comfortable. Cassian's going to come in a TIE fighter and blow up some stormtroopers, and we're going to be like, yes. And Bix is going to shoot that one after beating up the one that was assaulting her. Yes, there's little moments of justice that we can find, but the cost paid from the audience perspective is so much. There's no victory. There's no winning. I have to believe that the rest of this season is going to play out very similarly, where it's like, we are not going to be allowed to feel like anyone has won, because they don't win until Leia gets the Death Star plans.
Hope arrives at the end of the movie.
That's it. That's all there is. Is the rest of this season going to be these we're not going to be able to sit still. The heroes are not going to get a hero's death. Cassian and Jyn are going to be on that beach as the sun is setting and the planet is blowing up.
I would say everybody in Rogue One, though, gets a moment that's satisfying, for lack of a better term, like, you know, Baze and, you know, Chirrut.
Yes.
Like,
we're going to have these moments. We're going to have these little victories where we're going to feel like, yes, we got a little bit. But I really think that the rest of this show, based on this first arc, it feels like to me like Tony Gilroy is not going to, it's going to be like we're sitting on broken glass. It's going to be uncomfortable and heartbreaking. I cried at Brasso's death. Like, I felt it. And when Cassian looks at Bix and she says, what about Brasso? And he shakes his head, tears were going down my face. The emotional toll of the show just in the first arc. And then Cassian's face when he's flying away, when they're flying away from that planet. We are going to be put through the ringer here, I think, with emotion. And we don't see Bix in Rogue One. So what happens to her? We don't see Will. We don't see any of the people that he's with right now.
Yeah, Will leaves behind his girlfriend, too. You're talking about people that, and she says, don't leave without saying goodbye. And he hit it.
They also left B2.
They sort of gave him a well, you'll be safe, with them. You'll have more fun. But yeah, that's part of it too. Yeah.
But they were betrayed. And the guy who betrayed them knows, I don't want to speculate on this because it's too sad, but the guy who betrayed them knows that B2 was their droid. Right. He can send the Empire to get what information from B2. Maybe he and the woman who, like Brasso's girlfriend, will be on the run. Whatever that is, or is not. It was sad to see them fly away and leave him behind.
Yeah, especially because the whole time he's like, I'm waiting for Andor to come back. I love the scene where Brasso shows up and he's like, I wasn't waiting for you. I'm waiting for Cassian.
Yeah.
You know, like you feel for B2 Emo. Yeah, man. I haven't felt this uncomfortable watching Star Wars since, you know, maybe the Skeleton Crew, Jod, where Jod is betraying the kids. Like that was awkward. Or like with Hemlock in Bad Batch, like there was some episodes there where you're like, there's not a lot of hope and light here. You know, sometimes like the story has to go that way. And that seems to be what this season is going to be like. And it's kind of like rough, honestly, where you're like, I want to wind down, watch some TV, like be entertained. And your entertainment is this harsh, like reality, you know, like it doesn't really feel like a galaxy far, far away adventure of like, I'm going to pick up a lights, you know, I'm going to go out there with my laser sword and take on the whole empire. Like it doesn't feel like that. Like I'm on the hero's journey. It feels like it's heavy.
Yep. It's heavy, man. Yeah. I think they're doing a lot of this very purposefully to the Star Wars story. For me personally, certainly feels like a lot of this is very purposeful in what is currently politically happening in the United States. It just feels like there's some ties there as well. With Hemlock and the Bad Batch and Jod and Skeleton Crew, we don't know their futures. Like we see in the epilogue of Bad Batch, a flash forward, and we see Omega going to join the rebellion, but we don't know the outcome of that. We know the outcome of this show, essentially, and it's not a happy ending. They get the Death Star plans to where the Death Star plans need to get to, spoiler alert, but for the people, for these characters, there's no happy ending. I mean, maybe Cassian feels like he fulfilled his mission when he's on that beach. That part to me makes it so much more. I did not expect it to be as impactful. I expected it I expected me to have a relief of this. Like, yes, it's going to be sad, but we know they die anyway. So I can be desensitized to it. And the fact that he can, like, Tony Gilroy can turn this on and make it so emotional and make me physically upset at the stuff that's happening is not something I expected to happen.
If anything, I don't know if this helps anyone like enjoy it more on the like fun level of like, I like Star Wars. Like it adds a lot of gravitas to A New Hope, right? And even, you know, more so to Rogue One as well. But like the stereotypical, you know, Skywalker story that we know, like in the original Star Wars, all of this is what leads to that, you know, so that's fun on the canon level of fleshing out, you know, the somehow they got the Death Star plans, you know. Yeah, I love how it's making the grander universe feel that much more grand, right? And that's the best part about all these shows in general is like all this stuff and how it intertwines, and I'm loving that. So take all the depressing nature of the show out, the anxiety-inducing nature, like it's a good thing for the universe overall, I think.
Yeah.
But can we find some, like, let's find the joy, the music beneath the noise, right? As our favorite character, Perrin, would say.
Yeah. Do you have any? I don't know. I mean, the TIE Fighter's cool. I like that.
I didn't write down a ton of like favorite moments, but the intro is obviously like, that was a great way to start off the series. I really love, dude, small thing in episode 2 where they're by the campfire on Mineral. They're all talking around the fire and B2 Emo is at the fire, which is interesting to think about, like a droid around like a campfire, you know, like why would a droid like be cold or like need a fire? But
he just wants to be with his friends.
Well, sure. And he's looking like to the fire and you can see it reflected in his eye. Super small little detail, but like that is a cool shot, you know?
Yeah.
Somebody had to do the VFX to like mirror the fire there. He is such an endearing character with like a big personality. And how many times like have you sat around a fire just contemplating the world, you know?
Right.
And like B2 Emo is also doing that. Like I thought that was, I guess maybe that's not a fun moment, but that was a notable moment, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah, a very cool moment. The person I was watching it with also pointed that out. I did not notice that, but they were like, oh, that's cool. The fire is reflected in B2's eyes. So it's definitely a detail that people are noticing. I just really love the emotional storytelling and the bits of dialogue that I'm just like, damn, that's a good line. There's so many good lines in this show, like the defector saying, I've had fun here. Really, really good line, really hit me hard. In episode 3, when Luther and Mon Mothma are talking at Lita's wedding, talking to her about Te Kolma, And Mon's like, I'll meet with him next week. I'll get a number. And Luthen's like, you know the number, implying that that they need to kill Tacoma. And Mon says, I'm not sure what you're saying. And Luthen says, how nice for you. That's so good. That's his mind has become a sunless place or whatever. Like he's like, how nice for you. You're not the one who's going to have to get blood on your hands because of this. I told you not to do this. You did it anyway. I'm sorry you thought you could trust him. Now I have to get blood. And it's not really his hands. He's got, what's her name? Cinta there to do the work, but it's still him that has to make the call, and she's not going to make the call. Just incredible dialogue. Not a ton of speeches so far like we saw in the first season, but just these hard-hitting bits of dialogue. That's what I was picking up on.
I really love right before the wedding, or one of the ceremonies. Like, yeah, it was right before the ceremony where Mon is like, nothing past that door matters. I don't remember the exact quote, but she's like, that's not real. You know, you could call this off and move on. And I think there's some powerful lessons we could all take from that of like, how many times are you going to do something that, you know, you don't have to do, you know, and doesn't really matter. And maybe there's some other kind of pressure around that. And that Mon was like, I wish my mother told me this. I thought that was a really, really interesting scene. And that sucks that her daughter didn't appreciate it, you know, and then sends her on a spiral. Luthen thinks he is sneaking around, but he's not being sneaky at this party at all. Like maybe he assumes everyone is drunk and doesn't care, but his facial expressions, they're great. And I'm with you, the dialogue and the scheming is cool, but he's constantly like mean mugging everybody. Yeah. There's nothing subtle about what Luthen is doing there, Mr. like super spy, you know?
Yeah. Again, that scene with Mon Mothma and Lita being like, oh, I wish you were drunk. I think Mon says, my mother was too drunk to tell me this. I wish she had told me. And Lita's like, I wish you were drunk. And that's just devastating. I really like, though, that this is like, we're seeing the cracks in Mon Mothma's whole entire world is crumbling down. So like this whole arc that surrounds the wedding, we're getting into the territory of, it's called Andor, but it really feels like it was about Mon Mothma and getting her to the point of, and maybe this is where we can do a little bit of talking about what we think we might see in future episodes, but we're going to cross in these arcs, we're going to cross the point in time that we see in Star Wars Rebels, where Mon Mothma announces that the rebellion is real and then has to flee the Senate. We see that happen in Rebels. We're going to see that time period in Andor before it's over. And this feels like such an incredible beginning to that. Like we saw her in the first season saying, I'm the only one in danger here to Luthen. And now we're seeing, again, the cracks form and her world crumbling and herself crumbling. In my mind, this is setting it up great for that eventuality of her being like, rebellion's real, I'm leading it. We never see Luthen at that point in time either, so something might happen to him as well. It's setting that up super well. I would love to see that scene again in like the same way it happens in Rebels and Andor, and maybe we could bring in some characters. Now we have them all casted already, so let's see the Ghost Crew, Phoenix Squadron in Andor. Either way, I think this is setting that eventuality up really, really well.
Well, now that you mention it, like that speech, she gave that speech to herself. Like she wanted her daughter to hear it.
That's a good point.
But she was obviously like, you know, I have to move on from all this. I don't know. There was something else in that like Chandrilla arc though that kind of rubbed me the wrong way of like you kind of mentioned it. Like they spent a lot of time there building it up. And there was so much of that felt a little like redundant to me that like, we get it. But I guess that was the point. They wanted to draw it out and have her go from being like, it's going to be a wedding. Oh no, who's coming to the wedding? Oh no, they're going to shake me down. Like they kept drilling down, like making it, you know, awkward. Again, maybe that's the point of like, we were at the wedding and we couldn't escape it. It was like a, you know, multi-day affair. Like we also couldn't get out of it, but you could size up right away that like what is his name? Tacoma?
Tacoma.
Like, you could size it up that like that they were going to butt heads there. That wasn't good. And Luthen was like keeping his eyes on everything. That could have been like one scene and done, but we kind of revisited that a bunch of times from different sort of angles, building on it. And I guess that is the point of the way they're formatting it. kind of helping to talk that out loud now, because watching it, I was like, we're spending so much time at this wedding, but
yeah,
that's it.
I think we have to be there for the characters. Like, we're not the only ones being impacted by this. Like, we're thinking of it from the audience perspectives, but the characters have to be there for that amount of time, and we have to see them.
Yeah, you can see why she needed to take 6 shots and go dancing after that.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. Her best friend since she's been a kid is, like you said, trying to shake her down. At this wedding, he's getting drunk and stumbling all over everybody. He's talking with the bad guy that they're marrying their daughter off to avoid conflict. We need to see Mon go through that in order to, like, we need to be in her headspace while all this is going on. That's like the most important part of this show, is seeing why these characters are doing the things that they're doing, why Mon's rebellion is different than Luthen's rebellion, is different than Saw's rebellion, and to some extent is different from Cassian's rebellion, is Cassian's now going to be in, like, all of their different rebellions at some point in time. I think it's very important to stay with those characters, and the importance of, again, having 3 episodes all at once, so that we're flooded with it at once, so that we have a much more emotional connection to Mon as she's going through this stuff in real time. So I think you've talked me into liking the format even more.
Interesting. Yeah.
Already.
Dude, and by the time we get to the end of this season, and it's the classic, like, now once you see what they were going for, we're either going to appreciate it much more, or at least we'll understand it a little bit more. Yeah, okay, so we bounced around, like, a couple of the plot points. Like, is there an arc within this arc that was, like, your favorite one? Like, did any of them stand out to you more than the others?
I think the wedding stood out to me the most. Probably, maybe we spent the most time there, but I loved the costuming was phenomenal. The set was phenomenal. And, like, all the conflict that ensued, I also really liked. But honestly, I loved the TIE fighter stealing the TIE fighter. As stressful, like, oh yeah, and, like, Cassian has to get to where to his friends. Like, he's got to get there. Let's move. But he's, like, stuck out in space. It was really fun. And also, I did like the little bit of humor that they threw in here, comedy relief that they threw in with the, like, inverted controls.
Right out of Independence Day.
And The Force Awakens, I think.
Somebody put this upside down.
Yeah. So that was really funny. And then when he's, like, hot wiring it out in space and he gets, like, shot off into and then he calls Luthen's assistant on Coruscant, and he's like, I've been upside down for 3 days. It's just that another great line that also makes no sense in terms of being out in space, but is a very funny thing. Comedy relief maybe hits a little bit harder, and it's also like, wow, they're dedicating time to comedy. Well, all this other, like, we're talking about genocide, political espionage, a couple of marketing wackos to cover stuff up. There's a lot of, like, the wedding and bribery, XYZ that's going on that's super duper serious and, like, stuff we should definitely care about as people. And then the little bit of comedy relief of being like, I've been upside down for 3 days. This isn't the ship that I was supposed to be in. I don't know how to fly this ship. And by the way, as soon as he hears his friends are in trouble, he learns, like, how to fly that ship really, really well. So that was also a very cool moment to see. He's like, I don't know how to fly this ship. And then he's flying the ship and he's blowing up stormtroopers and stuff.
Yeah, he's a capable dude. Now that you mention it, like, I like all the time that we spent specifically with Andor, not just because, like, it's the Andor show, but yeah, even when he's stuck with all the, like, annoying rebels on, like,
oh, they were so annoying,
really annoying. But, like, I kind of like how he keeps jabbing them, that he's like, you might want to put out a tarp. It's not going to rain forever.
Yeah.
That's so...
Set up a perimeter.
So smart. Yeah, exactly. I
was just about to do that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And I love that, because you're like, he's transcended being, a hotshot sort of thing where he's like, think like a leader or whatever. He's owning it, And then when he finally leaves that planet, I love that payoff. Like, I think a lot of people are beaten up on the annoying rebels and how much time we spent with them. The rock, paper, scissors game they were playing. Like,
yeah,
that was kind of fun. Like, if that was its own arc and we got to build that out a little bit more, I think that could have been fun as its own kind of episode. Also, now that I'm thinking about it, I would love to see someone cut all these up as just one sort of thing, as the super cut of all the Yavin jungle scenes, of all the wedding scenes. Maybe someone will do that, I'm sure. But when he finally blasts off and you see those two temples and like the other planet kind of in the background there, that to me, I was like, nice. That was a good way to end that episode. Didn't really like get me stoked to see the next one since we're just kind of like leaving there. But that was a really cool world building moment where you're like, oh, no way. They're on.
We'll be back.
Yeah, that was really cool for the lore, I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like necessarily my favorite arc, but that nugget, like Mineral, are we ever going to go back there? I don't know. It's a wheat planet. Like, I'd be okay not visiting there again. You know, Chandrilla, there was some cool lore there. The Coruscant stuff was cool, especially with Cyril and Deidre, I guess we didn't talk about, but I don't know. What do you think about any of that? Yavin and Coruscant?
I hate Cyril so much. He's such a hateable character. But do
you hate his mother more?
I think they're on par. I think like him going to just lay down on, I hate to feel that it's relatable, but he's also just a big baby and I don't like him at all. So they do a really good job of making me hate him. I really also, with the annoying rebels, I was so annoyed. They were so annoying. But I also think that's another very, very purposeful thing of like, we don't have time for this. Like Cassian doesn't have time for this. Like we're going back and forth from his friends being targeted by the Empire and they're checking visas and they're going to get them to Mon Mothma and that world falling apart. And we go to Cassian, who's like tied up by these stupid rebels. Like we're supposed to feel how Cassian feels there and that like, we don't have time for this. Like we're stuck here with these annoying people. It's uncomfortable that we are here because so much is going on that we need Cassian to get to. So that's also like very purposeful, as annoying as those characters were.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We have to put ourselves in the main character's shoes and see it through that rather than the audience member.
With all that said, and we found some gems in these arcs, and maybe we're a bit more convinced on the formatting. What do you think comes next? What do you think we see next? Or is there stuff that you want to see? What would you like to see next the most? Because we're going to do a time jump here now. Every arc is going to have a time jump leading up to Rogue One. So we're not going to get to see the characters dealing with Brasso's death. We're going to see like the fallout from the characters dealing with Brasso's death. There's something there that makes me feel so disheartened because we're not going to get to see them deal with that. We're not going to get to see Mon Mothma deal with the fallout of that wedding and the death of Tay Kolma, whether, it's an assassination or they make that look like an accident. We're not going to get to see these characters deal with this, but we're going to see who those characters become after dealing with this, which I think like is an incredible way to tell this story. I want to sit with them and cry about Brasso,
Yeah.
So how are you feeling going into the next arc? And is there anything specific you'd like to see?
Yeah. Well, so now you're giving me even more thoughts. Like, yeah, I'm with you on the uncomfortable nature of like, he's not getting a funeral. They didn't even take him with, I thought he would put him over his shoulder and put him on the ship or something, but
he's a big guy.
He is a big guy, but we didn't do that. So we're not going to get that moment. Like, you're right. That's just gone. And so that sucks. Right. And I didn't even think about Takoma. If he gets whacked, like that's gone too. But on top of all that, like, our emotional connection aside to like these characters that we were just with, we're not going to be with them. This is also part of the format change for this season. Last season was kind of like that a little bit, that we, had different arcs, right? But if it's going to be a whole year jump, that could also feel weird. But I don't know what's coming next. Like there was some scenes in the trailer of like them blowing up buildings. There was the Gorman massacre thing. I don't remember. There's maybe the Dantooine base or Yavin base in the background. They're moving bases. I don't remember what else top of mind from the trailer was still footage remaining to be seen. So it is kind of hard to say like, where do they go from here? Because there's going to be a time jump. So it could be anywhere. I haven't really thought about it quite yet. With like Skeleton Crew, you're like, this is exactly what I want to see next week. Or even with the Acolyte, like this is what I want to see next week. And that's kind of hard for this, but I did really like that teaser of Yavin. And they didn't put the title name, if that is Yavin. They didn't put the name on screen. So it would be cool to see that fleshed out. And this Gorman thing seems like that is a bigger deal, that might have to like be a moment. So I don't know if that's the next arc or not. But I also thought the TIE Fighter thing would have been saved for later. But
Yeah.
that was the first scene, as they classically do in trailers. We're like, oh, no way that will be the opening scene. And then it is, of course.
There's a couple of things that I would like to see. It's going to be very sad not seeing Bix and Cassian deal with Brasso's death, but I would love to see if this resulted in a fallout between Mon Mothma and Luthen. It's either going to develop into the fallout between them falling out of each other's circles because he assassinated Tay, or it's going to bring her even more into his rebellion because he was right. I'm not saying that from my perspective. I'm saying it from like what she might be thinking and what he's telling her. Like, he told her not to bring anyone else in. Tay, like, made some bad investments or whatever and was trying to shake her down, and then Luthen took care of it, and Luthen takes care of things, and this is the way the rebellion's going to have to work. So it's either going to be they hate each other now, or she's more on his team. So I'm really curious to see which of those two things happens, and if it splits up the rebellions to where we see it later being Mon Mothma's rebellion. And I would love to see Gorman stuff now. Like, we have these marketing morons doing this like PR cover up.
Spiders are scary.
Whatever, spinning it a certain way kind of thing. Yeah. But I would love to see the planet, the people, the Gorman Front, as we heard it, that group of rebels described in season 1 by Saw Gerrera. I would love to see more of that going on, because we gotta see more, right? That was the whole point of that meeting with Krennic and the secret, like, bureaucratic council of whoever in that very silly meeting. I just want to see more. So I would not be opposed to them taking time away from Andor in the Andor show to showing us some other stuff going on in the galaxy that is leading to one unified rebellion at the end. So that's what I would hope to see. Down the line, I really want to see the scene of Mon Mothma fleeing the Senate like we saw in Rebels. But those are my only 2 wishes at this moment. Some cameos would be cool, but I'm stoked for this, man. It's such a good show. I love the politicalness, especially the way I'm feeling right now with other things going on outside of Star Wars in the real world. And I think it really hit. It really, really hit for me. So I'm excited that it's back. I'm excited they turned me around on my opinion of the formatting. I'm excited to talk about it with you. I'm excited to talk about it with people who listen to and watch our podcast. So get in those comments.
Yes, I'm 100% on board. And dude, we got a lot of material in these 3 episodes. So if one thing's for sure, like, we're going to get all of that. Like, everything you just mentioned could be in one arc. They're going to we jumped around from like 4 or 5 different locations within these 3 episodes. So if that is how the rest of the season is going, man, we're going to get a ton of stuff, dude. So I'm with you. I'm excited. Hey, you got me much more excited than I was after leaving off on Brasso's death. So thanks for that, Joey.
Yeah.
So we want to know what your favorite arc within this arc was, and how do you feel about the format this season of Andor? We'd love to hear from you, so get down in the comments like Joey said. Make sure to hit subscribe and tune in for more nerdy pop culture, but mostly Andor. Thanks for listening and watching the show today. Listening to and watching. I've been Royce.
I've been Tay Kolma. Just kidding. He kind of sucks. Low-key.
And we've been Krypton to Alderaan.
Chandrilla. I like shiny stuff.
Krypton.